When we look closely at how successful people start their day, the first thing that stands out is not their alarm time or their productivity tools. It is their relationship with the first few minutes of consciousness. The moment you wake up, your mind is at its most impressionable. Psychologists often describe this as a transitional state where your thoughts have a unique power to set emotional and cognitive direction. Successful people understand this, even if they've never studied the science behind it. They know instinctively or intentionally that how the day begins decides how the day unfolds. Most people wake up and immediately react. They reach for their phones, scroll through messages, absorb news, compare themselves to others. And before their feet touch the ground, their mind is already crowded. The day begins in response mode. Successful people do the opposite. They protect their mornings because they understand that attention is a finite resource. Whoever controls your attention in the morning controls your emotional state for the rest of the day. Beginning the day with intention is not about rigid routines or unrealistic schedules. It is about ownership. It is a decision to say, before the world speaks to me, I will speak to myself. That sort of conversation might be quiet reflection, prayer, deep breathing, or simply sitting still for a moment. What matters is not the activity, but the awareness. This pause creates psychological distance between you and external pressure. It allows you to choose your mindset instead of inheriting it. Philosophically, this practice is rooted in personal responsibility. You may not control what the day brings, but you do control how you enter it. When you wake up intentionally, you shift from being a passive participant in your life to an active one. You stop asking the day what it demands of you and start asking yourself what truly matters today. This question alone can change the quality of your decisions. From a psychological perspective, intention setting reduces cognitive overload. The brain is constantly filtering information, and without clarity, it becomes reactive and anxious. A few intentional moments in the morning act like a compass. They give the mind a direction, so distractions lose some of their power. You are no longer pulled by every urgency. You are guided by priority. Successful people also understand that emotions are contagious, especially the ones you wake up with. If your morning begins with stress, urgency, or comparison, those emotions will echo throughout the day. Intention interrupts this cycle. It creates emotional stability before the chaos arrives. This is not about forcing positivity. It's about creating neutrality. A calm starting point gives you room to respond wisely rather than emotionally. There's also humility in intentional mornings. You acknowledge that your energy is limited and your time is valuable. You don't waste your best mental hours on noise. Instead, you align your inner state with your values. You might remind yourself of patience, gratitude, focus, or courage, whatever the day is likely to demand from you. This is mental preparation, not motivation. What makes this habit powerful is its simplicity. You don't need hours. Even 5 conscious minutes can shift your entire day. The key is consistency. When intention becomes a daily practice, it reshapes your identity. You start seeing yourself as someone who leads their life, not someone who survives it. This sense of agency builds confidence quietly, without effort or performance. And perhaps most importantly, intentional mornings cultivate self-respect. You are telling yourself, my mind deserves care before it is consumed. In a world that constantly demands attention, this is a radical act. It strengthens your inner boundary, reminding you that productivity without presence is empty, and success without clarity is exhausting. So tomorrow morning, before you check your phone, before you rush into responsibility, pause. Ask yourself one simple question. How do I choose to show up today? Because when you begin the day with intention, you don't just manage time. You shape the life that unfolds within it. Once intention has set the direction of the day, successful people turn their attention inward before the world begins to pull at them. This is where the morning becomes more than a schedule, it becomes an investment. Before emails, meetings, and responsibilities demand their energy, they choose to nourish the mind that will have to carry all of it. This choice is quiet, often invisible, but it is one of the most defining habits of people who sustain success without losing themselves. We often underestimate the condition of our mind in the early hours. The mind wakes up before the body fully does. And in that space, it is open, sensitive, and deeply receptive. What you feed it first becomes its reference point. Successful people are careful with this moment. They do not allow the noise of the world to become their first teacher. They decide what kind of thinking will guide them before the day begins to think for them. This investment does not look the same for everyone. For some, it is prayer. For others, reflection, journaling, reading, or sitting in silence. What unites these practices is not the form, but the function. They create mental clarity. They slow the mind enough to hear itself. In a culture obsessed with speed, stillness becomes a form of intelligence. Psychologically, this practice strengthens emotional regulation. When you begin the day grounded, you are less reactive to stress later on. The mind that has been centered is less likely to be hijacked by urgency. Instead of carrying the anxiety of unfinished tasks, you carry a sense of orientation. You know where you are headed, even if the path changes. There is also a deep philosophical element here. Investing in your mind first is an act of self-respect. It acknowledges that. Your inner world is not secondary to productivity. It is the foundation of it. When people neglect this, they may achieve results, but they often pay with burnout, emptiness, or disconnection. Successful people understand that a sharp mind without a grounded one is unstable, so they strengthen the core before testing the edges. This habit also trains attention. The modern world is designed to fragment focus, and scattered attention leads to shallow thinking. Morning mental practices restore depth. They teach the mind to stay with one thought, one breath, one idea. Over time, this ability to focus becomes a competitive advantage. Not because it makes you faster, but because it makes you clearer. Another overlooked benefit is emotional honesty. When you sit with your thoughts before the day begins, you notice what you are carrying: fear, excitement, resistance, hope. You don't suppress it or judge it. You acknowledge it. This awareness prevents emotions from leaking out unconsciously later in the day. You are less likely to project stress onto others because you already met it within yourself. Successful people also use this time to reconnect with meaning. Goals can become mechanical when they are disconnected from purpose. A few minutes of reflection realign effort with values. You remember not just what you are doing, but why you are doing it. This makes discipline sustainable. You are no longer forcing yourself through the day, you are choosing it. It's important to understand that this is not about creating an ideal mood. It is about creating mental readiness. Some mornings will still feel heavy. Some days will still be difficult. But when the mind has been attended to, it is less fragile. You may bend under pressure, but you don't break. That resilience is built long before challenges arrive. Perhaps the most powerful aspect of this habit is that it shifts dependence inward. You stop relying on external validation, praise, or motivation to feel steady. Your stability comes from a practiced relationship with your own mind. That independence is rare. And it is a quiet strength behind long-term success. So before the world asks for your attention tomorrow, offer it to yourself. Feed your mind something intentional, something honest, something grounding. Because when you invest in your inner world first, you don't just prepare for the day, you prepare for the life you are building. But after intention has been set and the mind has been nourished, successful people move into the day with a very grounded understanding. The morning does not need to be perfect to be powerful. What truly matters is progress. This is where many people quietly sabotage themselves. They design ideal routines, set unrealistic expectations, and then abandon the entire process when reality interrupts. Successful people think differently. They understand that consistency, not perfection, is what creates momentum. Psychologically, perfectionism is not a sign of high standards. It is often a sign of fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough. When the mind is driven by perfection, action is delayed. When the mind is focused on progress, action begins. Successful people start their day by choosing 1 or 2 meaningful actions that align with their goals, rather than trying to control every minute of the morning. This keeps the mind focused and the nervous system calm. There is a quiet wisdom in doing less, but doing it well. Instead of overwhelming themselves with long to-do lists, successful people ask simpler question: what is one thing I can do today that will move me forward? This question shifts the brain from anxiety to agency. It replaces pressure with purpose, and purpose, even in small doses, fuels consistency. Philosophically, this approach reflects an acceptance of human limitation. You are not meant to operate at maximum capacity every day. Energy fluctuates. Life interrupts. Progress-based thinking allows flexibility without guilt. It acknowledges effort without demanding flawlessness. This balance is essential for long-term success, because burnout often begins where self-compassion ends. Consistency also builds trust with the self. Every time you show up, even imperfectly, you reinforce a powerful internal message: I can rely on myself. This self-trust is more valuable than motivation. Motivation is emotional and temporary. Self-trust is structural. It holds you steady on days when excitement fades and discipline feels heavy. Successful people also understand the compound effect of small actions. A focused morning task, repeated daily, shapes skill, confidence, and identity. You don't need dramatic breakthroughs to change your life. You need direction and repetition. Progress thinking removes the dream from growth and replaces it with patience. Another important element here is forgiveness. Progress-focused mornings allow room for mistakes. If a day doesn't go as planned, successful people adjust instead of quitting. They don't label a broken routine as failure. They see it as feedback. This mindset keeps momentum alive. Stopping completely is far more damaging than moving slowly. There is also freedom in letting go of comparison. Perfect routines often come from watching other people's lives. Successful people customize their mornings to fit their reality, not someone else's highlight reel. This authenticity reduces internal conflict. You stop trying to become someone else and start becoming more fully yourself. Over time, this way of starting the day reshapes identity. You stop saying, I'm trying, and start saying, this is what I do. Identity follows behavior, not intention. When progress becomes habitual, confidence grows quietly. You don't need to announce it. You feel it. What makes this approach powerful is its sustainability. Anyone can be disciplined for a week. Very few can sustain pressure for years. Progress-focused mornings respect the long journey. They honor the process. They allow growth to be steady rather than exhausting. And this brings everything together. Intentional mornings give direction. Mental investment provides clarity. Progress-driven action creates momentum. Success then is no longer something you chase. It becomes something you practice daily in small, manageable ways. So let go of the need to start perfectly. Start honestly. Start simply. Start consistently. Because the life you want is not built in ideal mornings, but in the quiet discipline of showing up again and again.